Alright, so Jack Harlow recently released a new album called Jackman. It's a super unique and different album from what he usually makes. The beats on the album sound super vintage and soulful, while still mixing it together with some modern type of sounds. And it was seriously just a vibe listening through it from top to bottom. So it also got me super excited to show you guys how I can recreate some similar beats for Jack Harlow. So let's not waste any more time, let's just jump straight in. Alright, so the first sound we are going to be using for this beat is going to be this LA Custom C7 piano in Omnisphere. It's the softest preset, and you kind of want to pick a piano that sounds a little bit old and vintage, but it should still sound a little bit soft as well. So that is exactly why I picked this one, but you can of course play a little bit around with the different type of piano sounds. As for the BPM, we're just going to lower it down to something like 85, and then for the scale for this one, we're actually going to lower it down to D sharp. Now the easiest way in my opinion to make these soulful and vintage type of sounding samples is just by laying down a minor chord in the scale that you're working in. So since we are working in D sharp minor, we're just going to start off by laying down a D sharp minor chord. So we have this chord, but this isn't really the most soulful sounding chord you can have. So what you actually want to do when you have this chord over here is that instead of having the D sharp as a root note, we're actually going to skip the first highlighted note below the root note and then place a note under that one again. So in this case, we're going to skip the C sharp and put one down on a B4. Now make sure to strum this chord and take a listen to how vintage and soulful it sounds. So that right there is the perfect vibe we're looking for. Now to build off of this, we kind of want to do the same thing again, but this time we're just going to start on this A sharp instead. Yeah, that's perfect. So we're going to do a little bit of a switch up on this last chord just to make it a little bit more interesting. So let's actually try to shorten this, and we can add a different chord on the last part. Do kind of the same thing, but I'm actually going to invert this B4 up one octave. Let's take a listen to this now. Yeah, that's cool. So now we actually have the foundation for the chord progression, but we want to make the piano a little bit more interesting. So we need to add a little bit of some filler notes here and there, just so we can have some more movement to the piano as well. One very important step when you're actually laying down these top melodies is just really to make sure that you mess around with the velocity down there. You want these piano melodies to sound as realistic as possible, and messing around with the velocity a lot is seriously going to change up the whole vibe. It's going to make it sound way more realistic, and it's also going to make the pattern sound a little bit more catchy. Now for the effects on the piano, we're going to start off by adding this Wolf compressor over here. The only thing I'm going to do is just make sure I turn off the noise, since I don't want to have that hissing in the background. Then you also want to make sure to add an EQ to cut out a little bit of those mid-frequencies we don't really want too much of. Especially around here with 300 and 400 hertz. Lastly, I'm also just adding this J37 for some more saturation on the piano. We can also add a small amount of reverb. Now the next step for the piano is that we actually want to add a little bit more of those high frequencies. So I've just cloned the same exact piano, but this time I'm just going to turn on the keyboard over here, and I'm going to try to record a nice little top pattern we can have along with the piano. So not really the best recording, but I'm just going to mess around a little bit with the notes. First of all, again, I really want to mess around with the velocity down here. And then I'm also going to play a little bit around with the timing. Yeah, that's a super nice top melody right there. So just with a few adjustments, the top melody actually turned out super fire together with the main piano. But now to really get that vintage type of sound, I'm going to try to find a soulful sounding vocal from Splice, drag it in, add some effects, and see how it turns out. So I think this vocal sample is going to fit perfectly. I just need to do some slight tweaks here and there, chop it up a little bit, and mix it well together. these faders in FL Studio 21 are seriously game changing. Now let's start off by pitching up the vocal. Just 1 octave up. Add some ambience with a little bit of reverb. To be fair, this sample is sounding so fire right now. I think I just want to start to get a little bit of that bounce. So let's just start adding in a few drums, and then we can maybe add a little bit more to the melody later on. As for the drum sounds, I'm of course going to use my Euphoria bundle kit. So let's just start opening up the rim section and see if we can find a nice sounding one. Yeah, this is seriously the vibe of the album, straight up. Just lower the velocity on those. Yeah, that's fire. Let's go with a simple hi-hat pattern like this one. We just need to do some slight tweaks for the velocity. For these vintage type of beats, you seriously want to mess around with the velocity on almost all the elements. Like I said, for the piano, it's going to make the beat sound way more realistic. And you can also zoom in here and adjust a little bit of the timing on some of the notes. It's seriously just going to make the whole vibe a little bit better. Yeah, this is such a vibe. Let's try and play around with some perks. Yeah, just something super subtle like that is perfect. So let's go in with some more modern elements for the kick and the 808. This is fire, bro. I'm messing with this. I think this is the perfect 808 for this right here. That's such a vibe. Alright, so I quickly just arranged the whole beat. Here's the final result. So we have pretty much all the elements in the intro.
Shut up, Marko.
And for the first part, we only have the piano. Such a vibe. Here we have the vocal. This time it's pitched down. Here we have all the elements in. Pitched up vocal as well. Cool little effect with the love filter. Nice little chop right here. Switching up the vibe. Kind of slows down with no drums right here. Then we go back in.